Hello, I'm Greg. I'm a sailor, a bagpiper, and an all-around jack of all trades. Welcome back to SV Slow Air. We're down in the shop again. I received the new plywood panels from Buck Woodcraft. Very happy with Buck Woodcraft. They've done a great job. One, I ordered the wrong ones. They immediately let me return them, send them back. They have great plywood, teak plywood, other stuff. Again, Buck Woodcraft. I think they're in Marathon, Florida. Let me look at this package. Marathon, Florida, Buck Woodcraft. They also do interesting things. Here is a teak name board that they made up for me. So now all I have to do is put the finish on that, and I believe I've done some research in looking at how to do gold leaf, and a friend of mine gold leafed the name board on his Marshall 15 catboat, so I'm probably going to do the same thing with this. Just got to, I think, finish it first, and then mask it all off and start the gold leafing. Hopefully get that done by this season also. But that one's lower on my priority list than getting the tow rails and the cockpit doors fabricated. So that's what I'm going to work on today, is making up the new plywood panels, and then hopefully figuring out what to do to reassemble the doors, and then I can begin the sanding process to get everything sanded down so we can start putting finish on it. Oh, a lot to do. Let's get into it. So here's the plywood package from Buck Woodcraft. When I ordered the first time, I guess, my mistake, I didn't notice that there must have been a section in the order blank on the website that talked about what direction the grain is going to go, and I didn't notice that, so that's my bad, I guess. But fortunately, they were very willing to take the plywood panels back and send me the correct ones. Oh yes, much better. So now the grain's running vertically. Use that as the inside, keep that as the outside face. Oh yeah, that's going to look much better. So that's the teak panels, grain running vertically, awesome, just the way we want it. So these are the original panels. Now it's almost could have gotten both panels out of one piece. But I'm going to have the saw curve up the middle, so that's losing another 1/8, and well, maybe I should have purchased a slightly wider panel, but this way I have the manufactured edges, and then I'll have some leftover pieces if another project comes up and I need another chunk of plywood, which I'm sure it will. So let's start laying this out and ripping stuff down and make sawdust. So I think for this project, rather than the table saw, since I'm going to be cutting at an angle, I'm going to end up using my skill saw. That one looks fairly new, so you know what? Let's give this one a shot. Nice factory edge. I was taught years ago in drafting class, as you're making a long line with your pencil, try to roll the pencil. If you just drag it down, it's going to make one flat edge. But, if you can, as you're drawing a long line, you roll the pencil, it tends to keep a sharper point. I'm trying to find a nice clean spot on the wood because there was some glue in there, and the buildup of glue, especially here, makes it thicker. But there are some nice places where there is no glue and the buildup doesn't exist. So once I have marked out then we'll take a look and say, okay, that is 5, not 5 1/4, a little bit less than that, so let's, looks like 5 3/16. Well, that looks like it's 5 1/8. And at the bottom, we are 7 5/16. Well, that's 7 5/16, so that looks good. That's 7 3/8. And this panel is 7 3/8. That appears to be 5 3/16, which does match this one. 5 3/16. Oh, that's 5 1/4. Yeah, I think we do want that to be 5 3/16. So, but again, I would rather cut these things a little bit larger and then take them down, because you can always take off, but you can't add back. Now, this is a great clamping guide for my skill saw. The downside, though, is that it really is designed to be square. And I want to be cutting an angle. So now I want to put the fence on the part I want to save. So that way, if the saw happens to walk away from the fence, it's going into the scrap and not into the material that I want to save. And then, if I'm going to be running along the fence, I want the fence, the distance from the edge of my blade to the edge of this fence, which is 1.5 inches. So I want to be 1.5 inches. What is the best way to clamp that so that the clamp is not in the way of the saw? Exactly 1.5 inches. Exactly 1.5 inches. I have to move this all the way back so that I can clamp onto my fence. And do the same thing at this end. Check, 1.5 inch and a little bit more than a half, so exactly 1.5 inches, exactly 1.5 inches. Measure multiple times. Now my depth of cut looks fine. What I don't like is that my saw is going to be resting on the piece that's being cut off. So you hate to have, the saw supported by something that's going to become very loose and flexible. I just have to be careful. So I'm about a 32nd away from my line. So definitely a little bit proud, but again, the board's going to be a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be, which is a good thing. I like to let the saw come to a complete stop. That way there's no risk of any issues when I lift the saw off. Boy, what a pain in the neck it is having all this crap on my workbench. Inch and a half, inch and a half. We're good. I don't want to cut straight across because what if I need a slightly longer piece? So I'm going to be doing a plunge cut, which is starting the saw, pulling the guide up, and then plunging the saw down in. Beautiful. There's my first panel. And a little bit of extra plywood. I am very lucky to have this workshop, which is why I really like to keep it as neat and organized as I can. A place for everything and everything in its place certainly makes life a lot easier. That's better. All right, now that's the way the doors go. I want that to be the interior. So that's got to be the wrong panel for that door. And that's better. Now the angles line up properly. So I've decided that I need to, since in cleaning up this edge on both doors, I basically made this rabbet deeper than it needs to be. So I'm going to put a 1 1/2 inch by 1/8 strip on both sides to bring this back out to the dimension that it should have been after I cleaned it all up and got rid of all the wood. 3 feet long, this board's only 2 feet long. So I said if I need 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces 3 feet long, 35 inches actually, times 4 is 140 inches. This is only 24, so 6 strips out of this will be more than I need. The problem is, running it through the table saw, you lose the saw kerf each time. So in order to get the 6 boards plus all the saw kerfs, I've got to make it about 1.5 inches wide. So there's my 1.5 inches. Saw is set for 1 5/8 inches because I want to leave a little bit extra. So I'm going to rip it down to width, and then I only need a 1/2 inch, and this board's 3/4. So then I need to take this piece and run it through the planer and bring it down to a 1/2 inch, and then rip it down to the 1/8 inch strips that I can glue in and get that done. So that's what we're going to be doing right now. Actually, I'm not going to take this blade off yet. I'm going to need it again as soon as I've got this milled down to a 1/2 inch thick. So that worked out beautifully. Now board's down to a 1/2 inch thick. I alternated back and forth, planing down each side to make sure that both sides were in good shape. Now run it through the table saw and we'll get the pieces we need. So now it's going to be a matter of running these through. 1/8 inch is what I'll be left with. So it's just feeding through, pushing to get that little teeny 1/8 piece out. So I always make sure that I have the saw unplugged before I ever try to remove the blade. And You can see I'm starting to hack up my push stick, especially running it through and cutting it off. But I would much rather be cutting up my push stick than cutting up my fingers. So now these little 1/8 inch strips will just get glued in here, and then that will bring the door back out to the thickness that I need. We'll end up with nice clean wood all the way around. Glue joints will be good. That'll all look beautiful. So I'm going to need to glue these strips on. Okay, so I have 4 cleaned up and squared up pieces, both ends true and square. What I need for this one is exactly 11. So there's everything all glued up and clamped up. I have these 3 things of epoxy that I have no idea what the percentage of resin to catalyst is, but this is the one that was 1 pump of each and theoretically should be correct. So we will see if that one cures properly. I mean, that's the only one that is really the important one, because that's the one that's actually gluing the wood together. So I think I'm going to call it a day. We seem to have gotten a fair amount accomplished today. Milled up the lumber to put the filters in, cut the panels down. Today's end of day Saturday. So tomorrow, Sunday, after church, I'll come back, see if the glue is kicked, and then maybe we can try to assemble the doors. It'd be nice to get those all glued up and curing over the week, so the next weekend I can get back to sanding and get ready to start putting finish on. Because, today's late March, it actually was a little warm outside and makes me think that summer might be coming. So I got to get this stuff done quick so I can get the boat in the water. So that's it. Thank you for watching today. I'll talk about an end of this video in case I don't get down here tomorrow. Thanks for following SV Slow Air. Please hit the like button if you've enjoyed what you've watched, and don't forget to subscribe so you can get updates when the latest videos are coming out.